any walls anywhere.
You guys just moved again?
Well, like a month ago. We just haven't hung anything up yet.
This is after the terrorist attack of scorpions on your family?
Yes, we are now scorpion free.
Excellent. And without sharing with the world, where did you move to?
We moved to our old neighborhood, 56th Street in Thunderbird.
Okay.
Can the world see and hear us right now?
Yeah, we're recording. We just started. I like to get a little truthfulness and reality before we get the show started.
All right.
It looked like my wife and kids were going to jump on, but let's get this thing started and we'll see. They may chirp in here in a minute.
All right. I'm ready to go.
All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to the only live interactive streaming video show on the planet that discusses, debates, and delivers important tips and tools for dads like you and me. Congratulations, Nate. You have personally been selected to step up to the mic and deliver fresh, relevant content, tell stories, and share your own personal path to fatherhood. If you want to learn more about the most important job a man will ever have, or you need to hear dinner table topics and captivating stories that will capture your children's attention and imagination, then you are at the right place. On this show, we will learn and grow together as a community while holding each other accountable to improve every day. So what are you waiting for? It's time to show the world what makes you a father of the future. Be honest, tell your friends, laugh, cry, and open your hearts so that we can all learn what it takes to be committed, engaged, and devoted to the children in our lives. My name is Luke KAYYEM, and I am a father of the future. Nate Dominguez, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks for having me, Luke. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so let's give the viewers at home a little taste of your life. Who do you have? Who's at the house? How many kids do you have? And what does it look like in a normal Dominguez Day life?
So I am the proud father of three little ones who are 7, 5, and recently turned 1. Our two oldest are both our sons. Our oldest is Jack Jordan. We like to call him JJ. He's 7. Our middle child is Ryder Nolan, and he is 5. And just a little more than a year ago, we were blessed with a baby girl whose name is Ella Jo, named after her mother, Kelly Jo. Ella is 1 and should be sleeping down the hall in her crib, I hope, right now as we speak. And Kelly and I are that dorky high school sweetheart story. We've got a lot in common with you and your beautiful wife. 16 and a half years ago or so was our first date. It was the senior prom at Horizon High School in Scottsdale, Arizona, just about a mile north of where I'm coming to you from tonight. And we went to college together up at Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff. Spent 6 years in the dating world before we got married. So we last year celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary and got 3 little kids, a house, and a business to show for it. And life is good.
So time out. Your last girlfriend before Kelly is junior year?
True story.
Wow. Yeah. See, so my wife, she wanted to experience other things for a few years. So she headed out to college at San Diego State, and she dumped me. She left me back at home. No, I'm just kidding. High school sweethearts, man, it's a really cool story to tell. Obviously, as you get older and your kids get older, I tell people all the time when they ask, where'd you meet your wife? How long have you known her? And I say 7th grade. And people are amazed, man. So it's really good to hear that, it's not just us, that does happen.
So Kel and I actually met on the very first day of high school. We both grew up in pretty close neighborhoods, but went to 2 different elementary and middle schools, but then met up in the same high school. And on the very first day of high school, don't ask me how this happened, but I wound up in honors English class, and she, deservingly so, was in honors English class. I must have gotten lucky on a test in 8th grade or something. So we were both in honors English freshman year. We met on the first day of high school. We're friends all throughout, dated mutual different acquaintances, and then neither of us had a date for the senior prom. So we decided to go just as friends. That's truly how it started. And now 16 and a half years later, here we are.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. So obviously the dynamic works. It works in more than just a bedroom relationship or a civil union. It works in the business. And I'm one of those people who had the opportunity and still does to work with my wife on a daily basis. Do you think the high school sweetheart dynamic, the fact that you've known each other for so long, helps you in the business?
Oh, that's a great question. I've never really thought about whether it helps or hurt. I mean, we do very well working together. We run a pretty successful business, and we have now for more than a decade. We have our ups and downs just like anybody else. So I'm kind of stumped by your question. Because we know each other so well and have so long, I would say, in all honesty, sometimes that does present some minor challenges, always minor, but when it comes to communication and management, like you, I think I can say this, both of our wives are certainly alphas, I would say, and I think you and I have that in common as well. And so I don't know. I'll have to think more about whether it helps or hurts. I don't know, but we run a successful business. Our members and our clients are very happy to be our clients, and we get great feedback all the time. So I'll have to think more about whether it helps or hurts, but either way, it's working. So I'm a firm believer, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'll have to get back with you on that one.
So before we get into that business, and that's something I definitely want to touch upon, how were you raised? Were you raised with a father? Did you have a dad around? Who taught you the lessons that you've learned on becoming an amazing father?
So I'm very fortunate to have two amazing parents. Their names are Norm and Sandy. My entire family's from Colorado. I was born in Denver, Colorado, just 35 years ago, 35 years and 3 days ago. So I just celebrated my 35th birthday this past Sunday. And I was born in St. Anthony's Hospital in downtown Denver, which was the same hospital that my father was born in about 30 years before me. So my parents were both born and raised in Colorado. I had a lot of family there, but simultaneously, as they started having kids, got sick of the cold weather and decided they wanted to live somewhere warm. So they scouted out San Antonio, Texas, and Phoenix, Arizona. Neither city did they know anybody. So either way, it was a leap of faith, starting something new. The story goes that the realtor from Phoenix got back with them first. So they came to Phoenix, looked at a few homes, fell in love with one, bought it, moved my family here. I was 6. My younger brother was 4. My sister was 2. So similar to my family, it's boy, boy, girl, and I'm the oldest. And we've been here ever since. So we're going on 30 years here in the Valley of the Sun. My parents are still married. They live about a mile and a half away from where I live. They're great people. My mother taught kindergarten for about 30 years, and my father has always been a businessman and an entrepreneur. So in that regard, I got the best of both worlds, I feel, growing up. My mother was very nurturing and very hands-on with homework and schooling and reading, and she was always very active at my schools and, volunteering her time and giving back when she could. I remember she would always attend field trips, even oftentimes having to get a sub at her school to have a sub for her kids in order to be with me.
That's cool.
And, my dad, like I said, has always been a businessman and an entrepreneur. And so started teaching me early on the importance of work ethic and drive and social skills and networking and, business mentalities. And so I've gotten the best of both worlds, and I'm fortunate I get to see my parents often. We've got a family tradition where we get together at their home just about every Sunday night. I would say probably about 45 out of 52 Sundays a year, where it's not only me and my little family, my parents. I've got a younger brother who has a 12-year-old daughter who will be 13 this coming Friday. You know my brother Josh. I know you've met him. Yeah. And my niece Jade. You've met Jade before.
Yeah.
And then I've got a younger sister whose name is Tara. And so she's there as well as my 86-year-old grandmother. So I was raised directly by my parents, but my mother's parents also have played a huge role in my life. My grandmother's still alive. She's 86. My grandfather passed away just about a year and a half ago at 85. And before he did, they were married for 66 years. They were the dorky high school sweetheart story that met in high school in Ohio a while ago, got married much younger than my wife and me, and celebrated 66 years of marriage before he passed away. And so they were always at family dinner. Now it's obviously just my grandmother, but it's a great opportunity most Sundays to get together and, talk about the week and raise our kids in that environment. And it's a lot of fun. So I'd say I had a great upbringing. I'm fortunate to have the parents that I do, the family that I do. I love the environment that I've grown up in. I plan on living in Phoenix the rest of my life, even though I love to travel and see the world. This is definitely my home. And unless my kids ever determine otherwise, I think it will be for a long time.
That's awesome story, man. So I'm getting feedback here. Hold on. Don't move. I'm just going to. All right. That was quick. So let's talk about your business and your family business and the giver's gain that is BNI. How my wife's been spending every Tuesday morning with you for the past 5.5, almost 6 years, networking at the Blondes Business Networking International. How did this start? How did your dad get into it? And how have you made this not only a career with your family, but a passion?
So BNI stands for Business Network International, and we take a lot of pride in being the largest professional business organization on the planet. We've got about 190,000 members all around the world. We've got a presence in more than, I think, 65 different countries now on every major populated continent. And our company was started 30 years ago this past January, so we are now in our 4th decade. And what we do is put together networking groups of small business owners, entrepreneurs, and salespeople, like your lovely wife, who get together once a week over breakfast or lunch. We are exclusive, so our groups only allow one person per profession in each one. It's about 7,500 groups or chapters, as we like to call them, around the world. And our members get together. They develop relationships with each other. They become resources for one another. They pass referrals to each other, and that all ends up translating into results in the form of our members making more money and growing their businesses. So my dad, when my family moved here to Phoenix about 30 years ago, got involved. He was an entrepreneur and owned a paging company back when pagers were this big and cell phones didn't exist yet. And he wanted to grow that business. So he got invited to a group and visited and ultimately ended up buying the franchise for Arizona about 28 years ago. So when I was about as tall as the tables that most people are sitting at right now, I started observing my dad and being a networker and going to meetings and working with a really diverse group of business people. I can't say that I remember when I kind of latched on and decided that this is what I wanted to do when I grew up, but some point along the way, he and I joke about it now, I must have made a conscious decision or an unconscious decision that I wanted to be involved because I really started paying attention and tagging along and asking him a lot of questions. So for 28 years, my dad's been involved. He actually just retired last September as the CEO of BNI Worldwide. So for about the last 10 years, he was traveling the world, visiting chapters in different countries, launching new groups, meeting our members, etc. And that provided an opportunity for me to get involved right out of college 11 years ago now. And I just started working for him at first. Wasn't for sure that this is what I wanted to do all my life. Thought maybe I wanted to work in the golf industry. I had worked in golf throughout college, realized that a private country club in essence is a glorified network anyhow. And I thought maybe I wanted to work in golf all my life. But as I got involved with BNI, saw the passion that our members have for helping each other. You mentioned Giver's Gain earlier. That is our philosophy worldwide. That's been translated, I think, now into more than 30 different languages, and it works everywhere. Our philosophy is that we give to each other first, and then we gain from one another as a result second. So it's what goes around comes around. And so I bought in as a partner with my dad 10 years ago in January. And then just recently, my wife and I came to an agreement with him to buy out his remaining interest in the business. So we are now the franchise owners for BNI here in Arizona. We've got about 50 chapters in the Phoenix metropolitan area, a few up in northern Arizona, total of about 1,600 members. And I am one of them, along with your wife. I belong to a chapter called the Business Leaders of North Scottsdale. We started that chapter 8 years ago. Najla joined about 6 or so ago, which was a great thing for everyone. And we meet every Tuesday morning in the heart of Scottsdale. We've got about 50 members, and I like to practice what I preach. So we ask our members to do things to grow their business, such as become better public speakers, meet one-to-one with each other, pass referrals, invite visitors. And I'm a firm believer, as I know you are at the gym, in practicing what I preach. And so I like to do the things that we ask our members to do. And as a result, it helps us grow our business. So it really is a win-win.
Yeah, you talked about work ethic earlier, and you don't have to get up every Tuesday. Once you are the franchisor, you don't have to do those things anymore. You can sleep in on a Tuesday morning if you chose to, and I think it's pretty amazing that you do decide to do that each and every week, even after all these changes and all the growth of you personally and professionally, and having 3 kids. Anybody could make up an excuse and say, "All right, I'm going to sleep in this Tuesday," but I know how important it is for you and the entire group. I've been to that meeting a couple times, man, and you guys definitely know how to hustle. There's no time, man. That stopwatch goes and it stops on a dime, man. So congratulations to you in that part, and for having a very successful business nowadays. It's hard. It's hard for anybody to be in business, especially for themselves. So I want to talk about the kids for a second. Tell me a little bit about Jack. Jack went through a pretty serious surgery 2 years ago.
It'll be 2 years ago in December.
Yeah, tell us about that, man, because, we've never had anything more serious than, my daughter's tooth falling out 4 times over and over again. What happened? How did you guys find out about it? And what's the recovery been like since then?
So it's a great story in the end, but it definitely had its bumps along the way. The Reader's Digest version is this. It was Memorial Day weekend 2 years ago, and it was a Saturday morning, beautiful blue skies. I had to run to Home Depot to get a few things. I asked our boys, we didn't have the baby girl at the time, if they wanted to go with me so that mom could sleep in and relax going into a 3-day weekend. So I threw them in the SUV. We made it 3 blocks away from our home. And at the first street light that we got to, an elderly woman ran the red light. She was in a Volvo sedan, said she didn't see the light, T-boned our SUV, hit it so hard on the passenger side, a full-size 6,000-pound SUV, that it flipped it all the way to the roof, and it slid 30 feet on its roof. The good news is that it didn't hurt me dramatically or the boys. The bad news is the roof had buckled enough that it was touching my head upside down as the car was still running. But it was a newer SUV. All the airbags had gone off. It held its stability. And so, one of the kids was crying. As a parent, I'm still holding the steering wheel. I had realized we were upside down. These airbags had gone off so much so that I couldn't see out in any of the windows. And so I thought we were still in the intersection. Little did I know that we were 30 feet away from it just due to movement. But we ultimately were pulled out of the SUV by 2 bystanders. They were roofers who were working on a roof of a home nearby. They obviously saw the accident, jumped down, came and helped pry the doors open, get all 3 of us out of the SUV. The boys settled down pretty quickly, and they were fine. Well, we sit down before the paramedics even got there, and I was wearing flip-flops that morning here in Arizona during summer. We do. And I looked down along with some of these bystanders who had stopped, and there was a couple gallons of blood, it looked like, around my feet. So ambulance pulled up, paramedic jumped out and said, "There's no way we can fix your feet right here and now. We got to take you to the hospital." And it was a paramedic by the name of Kenny who said out loud, even though the boys seemed to be fine, they were both well fastened into their seatbelts. So they had no noticeable injuries from this accident, luckily. He said, just for precautionary reasons, we're going to take them to the hospital as well. So they put all 3 of us in an ambulance. They wrapped up my feet. And we get there, and I go in one area to get MRI and all that x-rays and stuff. They thought maybe I had artery damage. I didn't. I had nerve damage instead, but ultimately needed 28 stitches. So they start stitching my feet up. I'm in one area of the hospital. My wife meets us there and goes with a nurse, an ER nurse at Scottsdale Healthcare, a place that I'm very grateful for, and took our 2 boys into another room. And they were pretty well off at this point, weren't crying, weren't in any pain. They were fine, but they wanted to check them just for spinal injuries or anything that wasn't noticed. So this nurse, a gal by the name of Christine, who we're still in touch with today, was doing her job that day, doing her due diligence on a Saturday morning, and put a stethoscope on Jack. He was 5 at the time. And I wasn't in the room, but my wife tells the story that the nurse looked up and said to my wife, "What's wrong with his heart?" And my wife says, "What are you talking about?" And she says, "It has nothing to do with the car accident, but I hear something that I shouldn't hear. Has he ever been checked out?" And he had gone to a really great, well-known pediatrician here in Phoenix his entire life, one guy. And they had never, ever asked us about his heart. They had always put a stethoscope on him, never heard anything, never said anything, just during well visits, etc. So the nurse says to Kelly, It's 3-day weekend. Don't freak out. But this coming Tuesday, you should take him back to your pediatrician, take both of the boys, have them checked out after they've slept a few nights, make sure they don't have whiplash, any of that stuff, and just let them know that, a little nurse said she heard something. So we go home ultimately a few hours later from the hospital. I've got 2 casts up to each of my knees, 28 stitches in my feet, crutches and the whole 9. The kids were fine. Kelly was shaken up, but she was fine, obviously. She wasn't in the car. And Tuesday morning comes around. We call the pediatrician. We tell them about the car accident, and they said, come straight in. So we get there together. Kelly drives us there. I'm on my crutches. We hobble in. We asked the doctor, who was very responsive. We said, hey, we check out the kids, and this nurse said she heard something with the heart. We don't know what she was talking about. And he was all giddy and happy. I'm so glad you guys are okay, and very supportive. Well, all of a sudden, he puts the stethoscope on Jack's chest. He walks over to his clipboard. I'll never forget this. He flips through the notes, or the records, if you will. And he looks up at us with a pretty disheartening look on his face and says, she was right. He said, I'm flipping through the notes here. I don't see anything from any of his previous visits, but I do hear something with his heart. And we said, what's wrong? What's going on? What can you tell us? He said, it's definitely irrelevant of the car accident. This isn't something that a car wreck would cause. But he said, I'm no specialist at this. I'm going to refer you to another doctor who is a pediatric cardiologist here in the Valley. And he said, he'll be able to do more testing and let you know what's going on. He was very strong in saying, don't worry about it right now. He's lived a healthy life. He had been a student of SickFit prior to this point in his life, as you know. And he said, just go home, take care of your family. And they scheduled us for Thursday afternoon to go see this cardiologist. So we get there. They do, I'm still on the crutches, obviously. They do an EKG. They do an ultrasound. And they send us to a little waiting room, and the doctor walks in and says, I've got good news and bad news. And this is, mind you, less than a week after this car accident. He says, and the boys were both there. Jack was sitting on my lap. Ryder was on Kelly's lap. And he says, the bad news is that the nurse and the pediatrician were right. He's got something going on with his heart that obviously was not detected. But the good news is we can fix it. And so we said, really, how do you do that? And he said, well, the only way to do so is open heart surgery. And after this traumatic car accident, a pretty crazy week, the last thing any parent wants to hear is that your 5-year-old son has to undergo open heart surgery. He explained us a little bit about the process, but then he referred us to Phoenix Children's Hospital, which is one of the best in the world, happens to be here in our backyard, and refers us to one of 3 pediatric heart surgeons here in Arizona that do certain procedures. Jack's condition was called ASD, arterial septal defect. It was something he was born with. I guess 1 out of about 30,000 kids are born with this, where in essence, while he was in Kelly's belly, his heart didn't form the same way that yours and mine did. The doctor described it that a kindergartner's heart is about the size of my fist. And Jack was in kindergarten at the time. And he said after doing the test that Jack had a hole in the middle of his heart about the size of a quarter. So if you can imagine a heart just this big with a hole the size of the quarter in the middle of it. And without boring you with all the details, the Reader's Digest is that for the first 5 years of his life, his heart was working double time of yours and mine. And it has to do with oxygen and blood flow going back and forth. And so thanks to modern technology and science, they catch this now far more than they did 50 years ago. And it is fixable, but the only way to do so is to cut it open, butterfly open the chest, stop the heart for what was supposed to be about 20 minutes. It ended up being 25 and a half, I think. And then they do a procedure where they put a patch in there that's made up of the tissues that they were able to get out of the outside of his heart, and they permanently patch it in there. They did this in December of that year. It was about a 4.5 hour long surgery. If you can imagine, I'm sure any parents watching, any dads watching can imagine what sitting in a waiting room at a hospital for 4.5 hours is like, knowing that your 5-year-old son is innocently having open heart surgery. But we had a ton of friends and family around us, people that flew in literally from all over the country and all over the world to support us. And after 4.5 hours, they came in and got us and said the surgery went well. It was a success. They ultimately butterflied his chest back together. He's got 5 stainless steel staples that go from top to bottom that will be there for the rest of his life. He has since had 2 EKGs and ultrasounds that have come out better than expected. They've guaranteed that, he's well on track. He's on track to live a long, healthy, and happy life. It's a really good thing we caught it. Sometimes when you hear about a high school kid going out on the football field or the basketball court and falling over and having a heart attack, or worse yet, passing away, it's usually because this very condition wasn't caught early on like Jack's was. So we like to call it the blessing in disguise. Had it not been for this elderly woman running a red light and hitting us that Saturday morning, who knows? Had it not been for the fact I was wearing flip-flops that day, had I been wearing tennis shoes, then odds are I would have walked away from the car accident. They would have never put us in the ambulance. We would have never met Christine, the nurse. She wouldn't have had a chance to do her job. But thanks to a few of those small blessings, he's now a continued student at SickFit. As a matter of fact, just this evening, I coached his soccer. I'm a coach for his soccer team. We had soccer practice tonight where he probably got a couple of miles of running in, and does really well. His growth was stunted a little bit due to his heart working double time for the first 5 years. So he's a little smaller than your average second grader, but he's now growing at a very rapid rate since his heart is working normally. And, it really truly has been a blessing in disguise, one that, I wouldn't necessarily want to do over again, the series of events, but that I'm very grateful for those series of events happening. It was May 25th of 2013, a day I'll never forget, but that really had a positive end result and a great impact on our family.
Wow, this is our 14th show, and that's the greatest story we've heard so far from a father, because it does have such a good outcome. And the people watching this don't know Jack, they don't know you, but he's a sweetheart of a kid, and he's got a heart of gold. And now to hear that he's going to be okay is truly amazing. I can't imagine what that would be like. I remember freaking out when my daughter went to go get a cavity filled because they had to give her the gummy berry juice and put her out for 35 minutes. So 4.5 hours, man, you guys held it together. Congratulations. That's amazing. And the support that you had too, that's truly where you find out who your friends are and who your family is and the people that you can count on with one hand. That's amazing that you guys were able to get through that as painlessly as possible.
Looking back now, I can say, it seems easier than it was, but we are now big fans of Phoenix Children's Hospital. Each year around the holidays, we're doing this in a couple of weeks. My wife knows the date. We go down there and we take the kids and we volunteer for an entire day. And Kelly and I really just kind of hang out in the background. But what the boys do, and Ella will ultimately do so also, is a day that they do that's called Loom for a Cause. The little rubber band loom bracelets?
Yeah.
About an 8-hour day where Phoenix Children sets up an entire scenario, and a couple dozen, maybe there was 50 kids there last year, get down there, and all day long they make bracelets of different colors and different sizes and shapes, and the kids do all the work and all the labor, and then those are presented as holiday gifts for the kids who are in there throughout the holidays, which we were because of the timing of the surgery. We were there throughout the holidays 2 years ago. We got a ton of support from our network, but now we're pretty proud to support Phoenix Children's Hospital. We donate to them as much as we can because that place played a big role. And like I said, Christine, this nurse at Scottsdale Healthcare, had it not been for her doing her job that day, who knows if this conversation would be different. So we send her holiday cards each year, and it really was a blessing.
Let us know when you guys do that. We'd love to bring both of our kids there. They both can do a loom pretty well. I got to give a quick shout out to Craig Ligori, who's watching this right now, and all the veterans today. Today is Veterans Day, so special shout out goes to you guys. Thank you so much for all your service and for protecting our country.
That's my identical twin, by the way. Do you know Craig?
Oh yeah. Craig's a good guy. He's been with us for a little over a year. And I've known him just throughout, the networking world now for a while. And he trains with us, and our kids play baseball against each other.
So talk about the power of networking and a small world, which it is. I've known Craig for years, but I didn't know that you know him.
Yeah.
And he's got 6 inches in height on me, but he and I kind of look similar. And I know it's happened to him, and it's happened to me out networking in Scottsdale, that people have confused us. And so to know that he's watching makes my night tonight. Hi, Craig. Good to see you, twin. And I'll see you again soon.
Nate Dominguez, man, we're not going to try to top that last story, man. That was beautiful. Very well said. It's always a pleasure getting to spend time with you, and definitely on this show. Thank you so much for coming on Fathers of the Future. I appreciate all your hard work, not only in the boardroom, but at home and every time I see you. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for everything you do for our community and for our kids, mine included, because they certainly have learned some great discipline and some health habits that I wouldn't have been able to teach them, but SickFit and you and your family and your wife and your kids have trained my kids as well. So thanks for everything you do, Coach. Thanks for this great show, and let me know if there's ever anything I can do for you in the future.
Yes, sir. Take care, Nate.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, guys, that wraps up episode number 13. This weekend, the crew and I will be headed to Las Vegas, Nevada to be completing and competing in the World's Toughest Mudder, a 24-hour obstacle course endurance race. Wish us luck. We've been training for the last 8 months, and I'm hoping to get one of those guys on the show next week for a post-race result of the 24-hour endurance race. Remember, dads, don't just be there, but be engaged, be involved, and be a part of your children's life from sunrise to sunset. It's the hardest job we'll ever have, and I take pleasure and honor in doing it the best I possibly can.